This is The Drive with Dale Lolley and Matt Williamson on your 24/7 home of the black and gold. SNR, Steelers Nation Radio.
And welcome to The Drive. I am Dale Lolley, and I'm here with Matt Williamson, as is usually the case. And, it's a rainy Wednesday here in Pittsburgh. And
That's all right.
The Steelers getting ready. They get on the field today for their first preparations to start playing the Indianapolis Colts this weekend. Matt, I have the injury report.
All right, let's
today.
get right in.
Let's jump right into it. Russell Wilson limited today, as Mike Tomlin said he would be yesterday. I will say this. Wilson did a little bit more today than he had done the previous week.
Okay. So
Can't tell you
revving
what,
up a little bit, but who knows?
It's starting to work in that direction.
Limited's a very vague term.
Limited is an extremely vague term.
Probably on purpose.
I've seen the funny thing is, the league 2 years ago, I think it was, came out with a statement to the teams. This is just a complete aside here.
Mm-hmm.
That if a guy was working with trainers on the side and doing any running or anything like that, you had to list him as limited. Before, they would have just simply listed him as out because he didn't take part in anything that the team did.
Like the dudes that just sit there on the bike or whatever, or do something specific with a non-coach.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they just changed the wording on that because if you remember, it's been about
you're at least doing something.
It's been about 5 years since they changed the designations on game day.
The questionable, doubtful.
It used to be doubtful, questionable,
right.
probable, and out.
Right.
They got rid of. They get rid of probable. Now it's just you're either out, questionable, or
probable's gone.
Probable is gone.
Yeah.
And doubtful.
And doubtful's gone.
Is doubtful gone? No, doubtful's still there.
I don't see it very much.
You don't see it much.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it does. I think it does come out on occasion.
Yes.
So you're either out, doubtful, or questionable.
What's a game time decision then?
Usually questionable. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, typically if you're doubtful and you play,
that's frowned upon.
That's frowned upon. The league's going to come in and say, "Hey, what are you doing here?"
Right. Because that's not very. There's not much doubt then if you played, right?
Yeah. So.
All right. Well, let's just dig back into this. Wilson's the only one going, or you mentioned so far, right?
Yes.
Okay,
Wilson.
cool.
Roman Wilson, a full participant today. Van Jefferson with the eye that he got poked in on Sunday. A full participant today.
We didn't talk about that because usually, like an eye injury, you go back after a couple series. It's blurry or whatever, and he didn't.
He came back in late in the game.
Oh, he did? Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
He was back out there late in the game.
Damaged.
Najee Harris was given the day off for rest, which is going to be.
I would think that gets pretty common.
We'll talk more about this later in the show here, but he's going to need more rest next week, I think. Deshaun Elliott with a quadricep injury was limited. Dante Jackson was given a day off for rest. Jaylen Warren with the knee injury did not practice. Although Mike Tomlin kind of said that was going to be the case. Same with Alex Highsmith. Same with Michael Pruitt. So the three guys that he said on Tuesday weren't going to practice did not practice today.
Pruitt a week ago he said is probably a multiple game injury, right? I forget how they phrased that, but week to week.
Week to week, yeah, something along those lines. Isaac Seumalo was a limited participant today. That's an upgrade for him from where he has been in recent weeks.
So it sounds like him and Wilson are doing a little bit more.
Yeah, they're starting to ramp things up a little bit. T.J. Watt, Cam Hayward, Larry Ogunjobi were all given a day off to rest.
Okay. Usually Cam and Ogunjobi switch days.
Well, they were all limited today, but it was a rest day.
Gotcha. They're just veterans.
Yeah.
It's not bad.
No, and I think some of that also was because they practiced outside today.
It was wet.
And it was wet, and there was guys slipping and sliding a little bit. But, overall, not bad, and you're starting to trend in the right direction with some guys.
Yeah, some guys that were out. And, heck, Sutton's not even that far away all of a sudden. You know what I mean?
Yeah, now you're just 5 weeks away from that.
Yeah, and there's a couple guys coming. You said Cook is due to come off injured reserve after
this next game.
This next one. Good. Love to see Seumalo back out there, although I think the other guys are fine. We knew Highsmith was going to be out, so that's that's
going to be at least 2 weeks probably.
Yeah. And you're well equipped to deal with it, though, too. I mean, the guys behind him are pretty impressive.
Yeah, and I just want to remind everybody, tomorrow we'll talk to one of those guys behind him, Nick Herbig. Will join us on the show about 4:45 tomorrow.
Nice.
So you want to tune in and hear what Herbig has to say as he gets ready to make his first career start. Didn't realize he'd never started a game.
Well, yeah, I mean, the guys in front of him.
The guys in front of him have not missed any time. So.
He'd be starting for a lot of other teams.
Yes, he would.
I'm excited to see Morley out, too.
Yeah, he should see an uptick in playing time as well. Particularly, well, we'll see if this team can stay on the field. in the Indianapolis Colts. I get some shocking numbers on them. The Steelers also
the number
made
of plays and the time of possession stuff is remarkable.
Crazy.
Right?
I don't know if I've ever seen anything like some of these numbers.
Yeah.
The Steelers also signed cornerback C.J. Henderson today to their practice squad.
Oh, did they? He's a pedigree guy.
Former
Coach likes to
9th
say.
overall pick. Started a bunch of games for the Jaguars.
Okay. I mean, that could be a reclamation project to keep an eye on. Interesting.
So
does that imply Trice is? You didn't.
He's on IR.
He went on IR.
Yeah.
Okay. So he's a minimum of 4 weeks.
Yeah.
Okay.
If not longer. So
not longer,
they're looking for some guys there. And well, again, they with Dante Jackson getting some rest here today as well. They were down some cornerbacks there. So adding another guy and making it a guy with some pedigree, not the worst idea.
No, not at all. I mean, he was very talented. He had some off the field stuff from what I gathered when he was coming out of school, which was, and he hasn't really put it all together, but we'll see. I mean,
he's still just
could be his last chance.
Yeah, 25 years old, but why not take a chance? Yeah.
And, they didn't know Trice was going to get hurt when they signed Pierre, but they got kind of ahead of the game on that, too.
Yeah.
And I'm sure he got a lot of work today and tomorrow, too, just to get him back up to speed.
Yeah, I talked to him about that today. I didn't realize he had been in camp with the Washington Commanders.
Oh, he was? Okay.
Yeah.
And didn't make their final roster.
Didn't make the final roster. So he told me that really he'd only been at home for like 3 days before the Steelers called. So.
Okay. Good. He certainly was in shape and been playing a lot of football.
Yeah, ready to go.
And he's a good gunner.
Some of the stats that we just talked about with this this Indianapolis Colts team, they have had in 3 games almost 50 more rushing attempts against them than what they have.
Yeah.
It's 121 to 73.
Yeah.
Opposing running backs have 101 carries against them. That is 16 more than the second closest team, which is the Rams.
I didn't realize that.
I mean, again, 3 games. So at least 5 more rushing attempts per game by opposing just the running backs.
Yeah.
Wide receivers this year have 9 carries for 66 yards. That's an NFL high against them in 3 games.
Wow.
So a lot of these teams are using some of that speed action stuff and actually giving it to the receiver, and they're getting yards on. Quarterbacks have 62 yards rushing against them. This is the crazy one to me. They're allowing a 70.4% completion percentage.
Yeah.
They're completing 49.3% of their own passes. That's a
that
20-point difference.
Is insane. It is insane. I mean, they're at the bottom of the league in completion percentage.
By far.
Well, and both sides, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, 100%. Like, back to the rushing stuff for a minute. I mean, the first 2 weeks of the season, they let up 474 yards.
Yeah.
That's the most of any team since 1978. And they apparently played the run well against the Bears.
Bears can't run the ball.
Bears are so bad running the ball, and they actually had 4 negative rushes. They made some plays behind the line of scrimmage that knocked them back 20 yards. But then the Bears just threw all over them and completed a high percentage of passes, too.
Yeah.
I mean, it's bizarre.
So as a result of this, they're averaging 21-36 in time of possession. The opponents are averaging 38-24.
Yeah.
Almost 40 minutes of time of possession through 3 games.
It's insane, right?
It's not a 1-game blip.
And to put it in perspective, they're at 21 whatever. The 31st team is at 24. Like, it's a 3-minute gap between,
which is huge.
But for them to even get to 31st.
So it's already through 3 games, 9 more minutes of
Yeah.
possession time. That's like 2 possessions.
They have to hold the ball for 50 minutes against the Steelers to get to 31.
And so they're 10 for 31 on third downs this year. That's 32.3%, which is not great, but it's not terrible.
Right, it's not.
Opponents are 26 of 52.
Yeah, 50%.
52 third downs they've gotten to.
The fact that they've snapped the ball on third down 52 times is insane.
But they're converting almost 10 per game.
Yeah. Wow.
And then you add on to that, opponents are 6 for 7 on fourth downs.
Yeah.
They can't get off the field.
They can't get off the field at all. So how about this? I saw this the other day too. So the 5 players in the league that have played the most defensive snaps in the whole league
are all Colts.
Yeah.
Because of these numbers.
Right. I mean, it's Kenny Moore, it's Speed, Cross, Jones, Franklin. Like they've been out there. They all played 90 snaps last week, and that's like the usual.
Yeah. I mean, at some point, and maybe it's this week, they're just going to get worn down.
Already, right.
Yeah.
I remember it was last year, the Steelers started, not nearly this way.
Not this bad, yeah.
But they were on the field a lot, and
Yeah.
it got dangerous. You know,
Yeah.
like this is gonna break.
I think the Steelers were like 25 or 26 minutes at time of possession in the first month of the season.
Right.
Well, here we are,
Yeah.
and I don't see any answers.
No, I don't think they're going to get a lot better in this department. And
No.
the Steelers are the wrong team to face in that regard, too.
Yeah.
You know?
It's just shocking. How about this one? Opposing tight ends have been targeted 20 times. They have 17 catches.
Yeah. It's a bad defense.
I mean, I'm no mathematician here, but
Those linebackers are rough. I mean, there's some other things where you'd think they'd be better. Where's it at here? They have the highest yards per route run and fourth most receiving yards per game to pass catchers allowed outside the numbers.
yeah.
That's not even like tight ends.
That's where I was
they're
going to
bad
go
at
next.
everything. Yeah.
They've allowed on 58 passing attempts to wide receivers, 41 completions. That's a 70.7% completion percentage. And 12.2 yards per catch. So it's not like it's just
It's
dink
not
and
just
dunk.
throw 'em behind
It's
the line of
down the
scrimmage.
field stuff.
Yeah. We do this matchup show with Rob King, and Mike Pursuiter's going to fill in. And every week we have a little Zoom meeting beforehand. You know, what are the three topics we're going to talk about? And when the Steelers had the ball, I was like, I don't have any matchups. And we usually have like 6, and we only need 3. I think I had like 1.
Yeah,
I'm like,
usually we have to pare things down a little
right.
bit.
Like there's too much to talk about. We can't be on the air for an hour or whatever. When the Colts are on defenses out there, it's like, okay, what are we looking for? Because you can kind of do whatever you want.
Yeah. And you know, the rushing defense overall, 4.4 yards per carry is okay.
That's okay, right.
Middle of the road stuff. But you can complete passes so easily against them. You just, all right, we'll take 4 yards, 4 yards. We'll get to third down. It's 3rd and 2, 3rd and 3. We'll just complete an easy pass here and move the chains.
I never quote them in like my stat pack, but there's certain sites I've gone to that'll tell you what players do against certain coverages. And I just don't trust them enough to put them like on paper. Like, I don't know if you know that that's cover 1 or cover 3, you know. But this team lives in cover 3.
Yeah.
And everyone knows it, and there's cover 3 beaters since the Legion of Boom that they have a hard time with because they're so predictable, which works. I always use this example. Like, when I was with the Browns, Butch Davis was our head coach, and I would talk to him about his days at the U, and he's like, we played the same coverage every time.
Because they just had better
played
players.
first-round picks everywhere.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, it didn't matter at all, you know, and they played a 4-3 stack just like the Steelers did in the 70s. Why change things up? Or the Legion of Boom did, is my point. And they're coaching it like they have Earl Thomas and Averill and Bennett and Wagner and Sherman, and they sure don't.
Yeah. I mean, just looking at this defensive group here, I mean, you're looking at Kwity Paye, Tyquan.
And he got hurt in the last game.
Yeah, and Tyquan Lewis are their two defensive ends, the two main pass rushers.
I actually think that's the best position on their defense because I like Latu.
And they got Latu,
the first-round pick.
Grover Stewart caused the Steelers some problems at the nose tackle position last year, but that was not with Zach Frazier at center.
True. And Buckner's out. He's their best player.
He's their best player. Then you look at the linebackers. It's E.J. Speed, Zaire Franklin, and rookie Jaden Carlos.
And they're out there all the time, and they're not special players.
Matt, we do as much draft study as anybody.
Yeah. Who are those guys?
I can't tell you a thing about Jaden Carlos. He's a rookie.
Right.
Do you know anything about him?
No, that's the first time I've heard his name.
I couldn't tell you what school he went to, and again, I have 300 draft names bouncing around in my head.
Yeah. And we dig in deep, and even the 7th rounders and stuff, we start breaking down.
Jalen Carlos, I guess.
And EJ Speed is not real speedy, and Franklin gets a lot of They both get a lot of tackles, but they're not what Leonard was, at all, to say the least.
Yeah, the cornerbacks, Samuel Womack and Jalen Jones.
Yeah. And actually Moore plays on the outside in 2 corners.
He's their nickel.
He's considered a nickel, but he's never leaves the field.
Yeah. And then Julian Blackman, who's okay. I like the player, and Nick Cross, but my goodness.
So here's another stat that's kind of sums up their front, too. The Colts have given up the 2nd most rushing yards before first contact. Like, those linebackers are getting nausea on them immediately. You know, like it's not like he's bouncing off something and then getting
They're making tackles, but everything's 5 yards downfield.
Exactly. It's brutal, man.
Yeah, it's a rough. Like I said yesterday when I watched these guys against the Bears, it's a rough watch.
It's a rough watch because the Bears have a lot of problems too.
Yeah,
you know? But and to your point too, I mean, like if the quarterback was completing passes and you could at least compete in time of possession that way, because Taylor's really good, their running game's really good, but they don't run Richardson very much at all, and he doesn't complete any passes. So it's like if we could get to 30 minutes of time of possession, all these problems would be lessened a little bit. I mean, I'm sure I know it, but if you watch their fourth quarters, I'm sure it's ugly with getting gashed because they're in the field for 90 plays.
To your point, again, he's played 3 games. He's played every snap for them this year. He's completed 36 passes.
Yeah.
Again, I'm no mathematician, but that's 12 per game.
Yeah, really, really low.
Really low.
I mean,
in today's NFL.
By far the lowest of any quarterback that started all 3 games.
Yeah.
By far.
Absolutely. Let's get to a break.
All right.
He is Matt Williamson. I am Dale Lolley. You're listening to The Drive here on the Steelers Audio Network. Matt and I will be back with more right after this. And welcome back to The Drive. I am Dale Lolley. He is the Matt Williamson, and we're pleased to be joined on the phone line at this time by the Dean of Doom, Bob Labriola. And Bob, with the Steelers off to a 3-0 start, is there much for the Lord of living in his fears to be living with right now?
No, everything's rosy. I mean, the defense obviously, the performance of the defense speaks for itself. To quote the head coach, it needs no endorsement from me. And last week in that game against the Chargers, we saw some things on offense that we hadn't seen before, and I thought were really good signs, for this team moving forward. Those primarily being, Justin Fields' performance passing, the fact that most of the big plays in the passing game in terms of the receiving end of it were made by guys not named George Pickett, and, the running attack. I mean, the numbers weren't great, but Craig Wolfley always tells the story about his grandfather telling him, giving him the sledgehammer and telling him to break up this big rock in the backyard.
Did he hit himself in the head?
And he kept pounding on it, and it wasn't breaking, and his grandfather just said, "Keep hitting it, boy. Keep hitting it, boy." And it did. It breaks and into little pieces, and that's what the Steelers did with their running attack to the Chargers' run defense. And when you can milk the final 4:59 of the game clock by running the football down to a 1st and goal at the 1-yard line and take a knee 3 times to end the game, that to me is quality NFL rushing attack. So, I got let me you want me to complain about something?
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It wouldn't be a lab day unless we
way too positive so far.
How about that kicker missing from 62 yards out?
Oh, how dare he?
That's all I got for you. It was awfully hot in the sun too, but we're actually, Dale, where you and I sit,
it's too cold.
Chilly.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll complain about that too. But outside of that, I got nothing.
Let's stick with Fields. I mean, I think it's almost remarkable how much he's cut down on the negative plays from his Chicago days. You kind of alluded to it. He won from the pocket in this game. He threw over the middle crisply with anticipation, with accuracy. He's one of the more accurate quarterbacks in the league right now. But we got this Russell Wilson guy hovering around. How would you handle this situation? How do you think they handle the situation?
Well, I truly, and this is something that I've just come to accept about the NFL from all the years that I've been associated with it. The good decision makers don't make decisions until you have to make them.
Mm-hmm.
So right now, there is no decision to make. Russell Wilson is not physically ready to be able to play. And so, to me, it makes no sense to either say this guy or the other guy is the starter, because once you get to the point where Russell Wilson is healthy enough, maybe that's not the decision you want to make then. So then you got to go back on what you said before.
Mm-hmm.
And, that's it's just unnecessary. That was a big Dan Rooney thing. He always would say, don't make a decision until you have to make one. And a lot of times the other thing he always said was sometimes the best decisions are the best things that you end up doing. The best moves you end up making are the moves you don't make. So, again, right where we are right now, I don't want to come off as a guy who's just parroting Mike Tomlin, because this is what he's been saying for a few weeks. But again, my experience with the Steelers is that's kind of a franchise principle that, that's what Dan Rooney believed. That's what, and I'm sure that a lot of the people who work there, I'm not saying that they necessarily are acting based on what Dan Rooney once did 30 years ago, but it's kind of a business model,
Mm-hmm.
And it just makes sense to me. Why would why do I need to answer that question now to satisfy people at a press conference when it may not turn out to be what I end up doing once I get to the point where I have to make a decision.
It's been a pretty successful business model.
Right. And the other thing is, and I really think that the franchise that Justin Fields is now a part of, the coaching staff that he's working with, God love the Chicago Bears. Are you kidding me? Seriously, I'm so tired of hearing what Justin Fields' record was with the Bears, as if that's some sort of benchmark for who this guy is, for the rest of his professional career. Let me just ask this question, throw it out there. When was the last good quarterback the Chicago Bears had?
That's what I was about to say.
It's been a while.
I say this on the air all the time. It's like they haven't had a real legit quarterback my entire life, and I was born in 1973. After a while, you might be like, it's not you, it's me,
Yeah, right. So, how many offensive coordinators he had, how many head coaches he had. I mean, just the whole, it was constant change, upheaval. They didn't seem to be able to settle on a coach or a system or, what they wanted to do. And this guy was, he was in the middle of it. So, and let's not forget, the Bears were willing to give away a second-round pick for Chase Claypool, who turned into Joey Porter Jr. So,
Let's keep making trades with them.
Right. In 1985, maybe they had the best team on the planet, but before that, I can't think of it, and since then, I can't think of it.
I really believe, like, you look at the Lions, the Browns, the Jets, the Bears, there's a reason they don't, live up to expectations all that often over the course of decades.
Right. And so, I just think Justin Fields, the thing that he's doing right now that I think he deserves a lot of credit for is he's doing what he's asked to do. I mean, he's not big time in it. When they say don't throw the ball over the middle, he doesn't throw the ball over the middle. I mean, he takes coaching, he takes direction. When they worked with him on his footwork, that was deemed to be a problem, or at least that's what I heard. He, again, he didn't say, well, this is the way I do it, or this is what's most comfortable for me, or, whatever. He just dug in, took the coaching, and tried to improve himself based on how they were trying to improve him. And he's still a young guy. And he was really talented in college. I'm sure he was unbelievable in high school. And you're the 11th overall pick in the draft. And when people start breaking down your game, you either accept that maybe you don't know everything and, okay, I'm going to work to get better, or you dig in your heels and, your career kind of comes to a grinding halt. And this is a guy who showed that he's not digging in his heels. And, I don't know, maybe his career is just starting for him.
Our guest is Bob Labriola, editor of Steelers Digest and Steelers.com. And, Bob, you mentioned that defense. I know we talked last week a lot about Cam Hayward. We would be remiss if we didn't mention T.J. Watt, now at 99.5 career sacks. Good chance, given the fact that he's averaged just under a sack per game in his career, that he gets sack number 100 this week against the Colts. Will be the first guy in franchise history to do that. And this franchise has had some pretty successful defensive players. Where does he rank to you in that grouping of? And I know it's difficult because he hasn't won the Super Bowl and things that some of the other guys did. But in terms of just as a player, where do you put Watt in that echelon?
I mean, he's up there. The only thing I will say about T.J. Watt is, and I will say this about every defensive player in franchise history, they're all behind Joe Green.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That he's number one. He's it. After that, I mean, I don't right now. I don't put him anywhere because I'd like to see where he finishes. I mean, he's got 100 sacks in what was he 20 in what? How many years has he been in the league?
Well, he came in 2017, so this is his seventh season.
Seventh season.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, if he plays 14 and he has 200 sacks, that puts him in a whole different spot than I would put him in now. I just think that this guy he's a what I would feel very comfortable calling him is a generational player. He's a generational player for this franchise. And, there are a lot of those kind of guys in franchise history, and how they rank. I mean, I don't know. Like Bill Cowher, for example, was on CBS last week. Didn't he name his top 5 or something?
I believe he did, yeah.
For me, this is just for me. How do you pick between Jack Ham, Mel Blount, and Troy Polamalu? I don't know how you. I mean, I'm not smart enough for that. I'm just not. No, seriously, I can look at statistics and remember things and but I don't have any way. I don't have any way of being able to make a legitimate, intelligent case for Jack Ham over Mel Blount or Mel Blount over Jack Ham. I can't. And then it just becomes, who do you like? And I believe all
hard to
of those
dislike
guys,
any of them,
right? And I believe all of those guys have earned to be judged on something more than personal preference. I just do, and that was one of the reasons. That's when people want to talk about retiring jerseys, fans love to talk about retiring jerseys. Why don't they retire more jerseys? Well, because then you start picking among those kinds of guys.
Yeah.
I mean, and I don't want. I know I certainly don't want to do that, and I believe that Steelers President Art Rooney II right now, it's like picking between your children. Which one do you love more? You know what I mean? It's I don't know. It's almost obscene to even try to do that. And so, go ahead.
That being said, there are jerseys that don't get given out.
Yeah, you don't
Sure.
you don't see a lot of 75s walking around, or 58s.
No, that
right?
one actually is.
That one actually is
is
retired.
Yeah.
But
But how do you pick between Woodson and Blunt, or one and not the other, or even the same position?
Yeah, right.
Right.
I mean, for example, the only way I pick between Woodson and Blunt is Blunt played his whole career in Pittsburgh and Woodson didn't. So when you're looking at Woodson's career, a lot of good things happened for him and were created by him when he played for the 49ers and the Ravens and the Raiders. And that certainly all deserves to be added to his resume. And when you look at his total body of work and why he was deserving of being a first ballot Hall of Famer, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, yes, all of that stuff. But I don't think you can count that when you're comparing him to another guy who played his entire career for the Steelers at the same position. Blunt had 57 interceptions for the Steelers. Woodson had 38.
Labs, do you
One of
agree
them had a
that
rule.
Sorry. Do you agree that
No, that's okay.
that TJ is the best of the 3-4 outside linebacker group? I mean, Harrison, Lloyd, Gilden, Porter. I mean, apples to apples
Yes.
a little bit more. Yeah.
Yes, yes, and right. Yes, he is.
Okay.
Because
Which is pretty good company
he's a
too.
Guy, yeah, he's a guy who is, I don't know, just his relentlessness to me is I don't know, it's special, beyond special. And another thing that, Mike Tomlin brought this up one time when we were taping in the Mike Tomlin show, that he was talking about T.J. Watt, and he said, that entire off season where T.J. Watt was in a contract situation, and he attended everything, mini camp and OTAs and all that stuff, training camp, but he never did any team drills. Signed whatever it was 48 hours before kickoff of the opener. He goes out on the opener, and he was the best player on the field. I mean, how did
and Josh Allen was on the field.
Yes, yes, right. I mean, those are the kinds of, that's T.J. Watt, and so I ton of respect, mad respect for T.J., as the kids say, but and I just choose not to rank him with guys that, I don't know, they're iconic Steelers. They just are.
Speaking of which, Steelers has some pretty good centers over the year too, and I think they might have another one.
Yeah, certainly. He is certainly looking like a guy who is the answer to the question there.
Mm-hmm.
For how long? A decade, or at least, hopefully he has a typically long career for a player at that position. And, offensive line is an area where I usually defer to the expertise of, Wolf and Starks. But, there are some things that I have seen that he's special. Now, the next thing is he better than Pouncey? That's going to come up.
Yeah.
I don't know. But
we could cross that bridge in 5 years or so. Yeah. Hopefully,
yeah.
right.
And the other thing about that is just to be in the same conversation with that guy. For Frazier to be in the same conversation as Pouncey, that to me is high praise. So, again.
But he seems to be starting his career in a similar manner.
Yes.
Good enough, yeah.
Now, yeah, I mean, the only difference is that it seemed, at least to me, that the injury to Nate Herbig, kind of helped, get him on the field and put him there.
I think things are trending in that direction, though.
Yes.
Regardless.
Yes, they very well could have been. But the way that it happened was the injury is what put him there when it put him there. Pouncey was put there because there was nobody better on campus that summer than him at that spot. And again, before we left, checked out of Bonaventure or Benedict Halldale, that may have been the case, but it wasn't this particular instance. So, again, we're nitpicking. At least I am, because these are impossible questions to answer, in my opinion. Is he better than Pouncey? Is T.J. Watt better than Jack Ham? Is Woodson better than Blunt? These are questions that to me are very difficult, if not impossible, to answer. But I will say, Zach Frazier is a guy who looks to me to be someone who is a finisher, which is very important, I believe. And he seems to have a lot of the other qualities you're looking for in an NFL center. and I'm sure in time he's going to emerge as a leader of the unit because all the great ones are. Again, I good draft pick. All of the draft hype about when they picked this guy, he's going to be their center, and I was a little skeptical because you never really know on draft day or the first couple of weeks after, what a guy is going to turn out to be. But yes, all of that hype was deserved for him, and he's living up to it.
No question.
Yeah.
It should be an easy vote for Steelers Rookie of the Year, I would think.
I would think so this year. Bob, if the Steelers win on Sunday, they would be 3-0, win their first 3 road games of the season. They've done that before. They did it in 2020, 2010, 2005, 1983, 1978, and 1975. Now, there's some things that happened in some of those years that ended with a big
a parade.
A parade, yes. I'm not saying that's going to happen necessarily. I'm not saying they're going to win on Sunday. But are we seeing something maybe a little special here?
It certainly has the makings of it. What I will tell you, since, I guess there are some other things I can be nervous about, the injuries. The injuries are starting to, the two that are kind of most worrisome to me right now are Highsmith and Jaylen Warren. You got to have both of those guys, I think, for any of that stuff, Dale, that you were kind of intimating, for that to have a chance.
I just meant they won the division title all 6 of those seasons. That's all I was talking about.
Oh, I thought you were talking about parades.
No, it would be a parade in Cleveland if they won a division title.
I was never totally convinced that they didn't have a chance to win the division this year. They were 5-1 against division teams last year. What are they, 7-1 in their last 8 against the Ravens? I always quote Juju, the Browns is the Browns.
They look terrible.
They had their 15 seconds, whatever season that was.
Bob, they have a 2-time Coach of the Year award winner. What more could you want?
Sure. They have the reigning NFL Defensive Player of the Year award winner too, and all that tells me is the voters don't know what the hell they're talking about. Seriously, who wants Myles Garrett over T.J. Watt? I like I said, I don't know anything about football or breaking down video or any of that stuff, but watch the games. I don't even DVR them and go back and forth and try and dissect plays or anything.
Bob, it's all about pass rush win rate and double team rates and things of that nature. It's not about sacks.
Yeah.
It's not about the actual stats that they keep track of. It's about these nonsensical, analytic stats. Right.
Because how many Super Bowls have been won with analytics? I mean, that's a question I'd like answered by someone who's not an analytic person. But anyway, but a lot of things still have to fall into place here. I don't know. The Bengals certainly don't look that great now. The Ravens, the only thing the Ravens seem to be really good at is blowing double-digit leads in the fourth quarter. Imagine that in Pittsburgh.
Oh,
if that was going on here.
Oh, wow. Yeah. What would be said about the head coach if that?
Yeah, and again, how is the quarterback of a team that so regularly blows double-digit leads in the fourth quarter? How's he an MVP?
With the best rushing offense in the league, mind you.
Well, he's a big part of that.
Yeah, well, I understand, but
I will concede that.
They should be able to put teams
they
away.
should be able to put teams away with the way that they run the football, and they don't do it.
Yes.
And they almost lost one on Sunday doing the same thing. Yep.
To the Cowboys, for goodness sakes. So, I mean, I don't know. Sometimes I guess the grass is always greener, or Steelers fans just like to complain, or I don't know. But I don't look at the AFC North as as Bill Hillgrove used to say, as an unmakeable putt. But hey, there's a lot of football to be played too.
There absolutely
is.
As
you mentioned, Dale, they could lose on Sunday.
Yeah, and that would well, it wouldn't put a damper on the 3-0 start, but it certainly
4-0 sounds a lot nicer.
We'd feel a little differently on Monday talking about this, and when we talk to you again on Wednesday. But Bob, we've taken up more than enough of your time. You can get back to brooding about that potentially happening, and we will talk to you next week, Bob. He is Bob Labriola, editor of Steelers Digest and Steelers.com, the Dean of Doom. And that's Matt Williamson. I'm Dale Lolley. You're listening to The Drive here on the Steelers Audio Network. We'll be back with more right after this.
This is The Drive with Dale Lolley and Matt Williamson on your 24/7 home of the black and gold. SNR, Steelers Nation Radio.
And we are back. I'm Dale Lolley. He is the Matt Williamson, and this is the SNR Drive. And you can hear The Drive here on Steelers Nation Radio on the Steelers Audio Network, Monday through Friday from 4 to 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And, of course, you can listen to all of our great shows here on the Steelers Audio Network. We got stuff from wall to wall every day. You can also hear all those shows on demand on the podcast on the Steelers official mobile app. And, of course, watch this show on YouTube, which we appreciate you all doing and liking it. And I do read through the comments every day. You'll see my name on there. It's not just Dale Lolley. There's some numbers and stuff there. But I do answer if people have questions and stuff on there. I do try to take a look at that during the week. It's just something I've always liked to do, going all the way back to my days at the Observer Reporter when I had my first blog, when blogs were just starting out.
Yeah.
I had a blog on there with Steelers stuff. And I originally started it out as a fantasy football blog, and then I kind of just morphed it into a Steelers, just pure Steelers blog, and it took off. And my Monday column was just, kind of what was now my 10 thoughts on Steelers.com.
Okay, that's how that developed.
Kind of how that developed. Somebody texted me this weekend. They said, you should put numbers on your 10 thoughts so we know exactly what. I said, I would, and I used to do it that way, but I want my 10 thoughts to be more kind of a stream of consciousness, because oftentimes I'll
bullet point.
Yeah. I'll talk about something, go to a couple other thoughts, and then circle back around to the thought that I had 3 thoughts ago. And by the way, this goes along with that.
Okay.
So it's just kind of, I just sit down and write them. It's my stream of consciousness after the game, what I'm thinking about. But with this team, with this defense, Matt.
Real quick on the comment stuff. I'm not super technically savvy, obviously, but the YouTube comment section is a great way to get in touch with us, too.
Absolutely, yeah.
And
like
frankly,
I said, I check it out a couple of times a day.
I need to do a better job of checking that stuff out, because when I wrote for ESPN, I quickly learned to not read comments. When you do a national one, there's 31 other teams that don't like what you said about when you say something good about one, or so I forget who I was talking to. It might even been Sando or one of those guys. I'm like, man, these comments are pretty rough when I was new. He's like, don't read the comments. They're not going to say anything nice to you on this site. And they didn't.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's some of that too, and I understand. If you do come after us on there, you better be right about it. You better be have a like I've had people accuse me of saying this or that. I'm like, look, I don't know what you're talking about.
And if you come after Omar, you better be right.
Right.
You better.
Omar coming. But yeah, I mean, I do enjoy the interaction on there.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so if people have a question or a thing like something like that, that's a great way to communicate with us, and maybe there's something we'll bring up on the show that we weren't thinking about. That's really the way that one of the big reasons why I started looking at the comments more often when I've done things like that, even when I was at DK Pittsburgh Sports, because sometimes. Somebody sitting at home will come up with something and you're like, yeah, I didn't think about that.
Yeah. I mean, like, I got a comment today on a different forum just saying, what do you think it would cost to get Nuke Hopkins off the Titans or Kirk off the Jags? Or
that was brought up on ESPN.
Raiders
yeah.
stuff. I mean, I hadn't thought about Nuke Hopkins or Kirk or some of these teams are down and out already. You know, I mean, it's something to think about.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's always little things here and there that we don't pretend to know everything.
No.
We know a lot. Just from being around it so much, and
this is all we do.
This is what we do for a living. Yes, we don't just pretend to do this. But
the YouTube stuff's been very positive, and I'm sure there's a lot of people watching now that, oh, where's this been? Well, it's new. It's only been here a couple weeks. We've only been YouTubing for a little while.
Done it before in the past, but just like at the owners' meetings or
special events.
Yeah, special event kind of stuff. This is something that's we're going to do, I assume, forever.
From here on
Tyler's
out,
going to be forever. Tyler says Tyler
sure,
Whitmire, who videos us here, he's saying, gives us a thumbs up on that. So yeah, it's a new way to reach the fans, and
it's been popular.
If you haven't listened to the show before this, we appreciate you listening now.
Yeah, I bet there's a lot of new viewers.
Yeah,
if not listeners.
Yeah, and if you've been listening to the show for a long time, we appreciate that, and we do know that there are quite a few of those as well, and Matt and I appreciate that, and we enjoy the feedback. So if you have some feedback, let us have it.
Yeah.
And, we'll get back to you or answer your questions or whatever it might be. Have no problem doing that. So.
No, right. Or suggestions for the show or whatever. Anything that's on your noodle.
Yeah, absolutely. What's on my noodle now is just talking real quickly about what I just mentioned to Bob, Matt. If the Steelers get to 3-0.
4-0.
Well, 3-0 on the road. Win their first 3 road games. Every year that they have done that in the past, win their first 3 road games, they have won their division.
Wow. Okay.
2020, 2010, 2005, 1983, 1978, and 1975.
So it's happened 7 times?
This will be the 7th time if they get that done.
Okay, so
they've also won double-digit games every one of those seasons.
Wow. And some of them were like 14-game seasons.
Yeah.
In
4 of those seasons, they've advanced to the Super Bowl. So
not so shabby.
Just
Good
saying.
start.
I'm just putting that out there.
I mean, winning on the road is tough in this league.
Absolutely.
Winning 3 in a row is really tough, and going 3-0.
I don't care who you're playing.
Really, exactly. And really, their road record going back for well over a year now has been really good. Yeah,
really good. In fact, they have one of the best road records in the AFC over the past since Tomlin's been the head coach.
Oh, I was even thinking more short term, but that doesn't surprise me either.
I mean, for whatever reason, they handle it well.
And back to the fan interaction, you guys help with that too, by the way.
Absolutely. And we'll see how I would expect a pretty decent Steelers contingent in Indianapolis.
Not a bad ride, folks.
Yeah.
If you're thinking about it, we do it for the Combine every year. It's not a bad ride at all. Nice and flat. You'll get there in 5 hours. Should give you some spots to stop on the way.
Culver's and Columbus is always good. Like to stop there, but never a bad stop. But so I'm just throwing that out there. We'll see. We'll see that they've started 3-0 10 times in their history.
Okay.
The only time that they didn't advance to the postseason after starting 3-0 was in 1936.
Oh, wow. I don't even know what the playoff structure was
1936.
at that point.
I can tell you.
All right.
I looked it up. That was the first season. 1936 was the first season in the NFL that they had an actual college draft.
Okay.
1936, there were 9 teams in the NFL.
9.
And the top 2 teams the teams who won their division, there were 2 divisions at the time, one with 4 teams, one with 5. If you won your division,
everybody always had a bye, apparently.
Yes, you advanced to the NFL championship game to decide the champion. If you didn't, and the Steelers finished second that year, it's 6.
So they didn't go to the postseason.
Yeah, I think
there's one postseason game.
There was one game.
Okay.
One ring to rule them all.
I got you.
And the Steelers didn't make it that year. So that was the only year that they've started 3-0 that they didn't make the playoffs.
So since 1937, they're perfect.
Good way to put it.
There you go.
There you go. Let's get to a break. That's going to do it for hour number 1 of the drive here on the Steelers Audio Network. Matt and I will be back with hour number 2 right after this. Welcome back to hour number 2 of the drive here on the Steelers Audio Network. I am Dale Lolley. He is the Matt Williamson. And Matt, it's Wednesday, which means in today's Fantasy Football Focus, we take a look at some of the big injuries around the league as they affect teams here. Taysom Hill with the chest injury returned to practice in full on Wednesday for the Saints. And given the state of...
I was about to ask you that.
the tight end position right now.
Like, where do you rank him? Is he a top 12 guy now?
He might be this week.
Like, I'd take Freiermuth over him, especially this week. But I'd take Goddard over him, But what about, like, Mark Andrews? I know that's insane. But
He had no catches last week. He's got 9 points for the season.
Kelsey's low. Kittle's hurt. Kincaid hasn't done much. McBride's going to probably be on this list, and he's been good. But don't let Taysom Hill sit on your waiver wire.
Yeah, it's been a bad season for injuries at the tight end position, and that position, But as I've said before, the tight end position, because of what they're asked to do and where they catch the football, just lends itself to guys getting hurt. People said that about Freiermuth. He gets hurt too much. I'm like, have you looked around at other tight ends?
Right. Njoku's out now.
He doesn't miss any more games than anybody else's top tight ends. I know Kelsey never misses any time, but he's never asked to block, really.
No, he's a glorified receiver, too. Yeah, right. But no, the state of the tight end position is really troublesome right now. And there's not a lot of, even as many good ones we've had come in the league, there aren't many that are like blowing the world away. Like Bowers was impressive, but last week wasn't good for him. And it's an inconsistent position.
Plus, it really is.
Passing yards are down.
If Mark Andrews isn't a factor again this week, is it time to maybe cut bait?
Well, the thing no one's talking about with him is he was in a car accident recently.
About 2 weeks, 3 weeks before the season started.
Right. And I don't know how bad it was. I mean, everyone kind of brushed it off like, oh, it was a fender bender. He's all right. But it doesn't. He's coming off a major injury and he was a car accident, and he's not young.
Yeah.
I will say their whole plan against Dallas, and we'll talk about Dallas a week from now, is we want to get big and we're going to run. It's a Ricard game.
Last time I checked, though, Mark Andrews is big.
He's big, but he's not a great blocker. But he was only out there 1/3 of the snaps.
Yeah.
I mean, that's distressing.
He got 4 targets.
Did he?
And didn't catch any of them.
Didn't catch any. Likely got 1 catch.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm probably going to start him again this week because you have so much invested. But then he's in the doghouse after that.
Yeah. Cooper Kupp with that ankle injury, no longer in a cast. So that's a step in the right direction.
He's on IR, though, right?
I don't know. They never put him on IR.
And Nakua is on IR.
Yeah.
Kupp is not. Okay. So, maybe he's right around the corner.
So they just wanted to stabilize that thing for a couple of weeks, and now you start ramping him back up to come back.
He might be a good trade candidate.
Yeah.
Go knock on the door, whoever has him, sitting there, burn the hole in him.
Sam Darnold with that knee injury for the Vikings got a full practice today.
Good.
That's a good sign for him.
He's fantasy relevant now, too.
Yeah. Jordan Addison with that ankle injury was officially limited on Wednesday. He's trending back towards a return.
I've never been a huge fan. Like, I don't own him anywhere, but he'd be a nice pickup. I mean, I forget the dude's name. It's been catching a touchdown every week for them.
Jalen Naylor.
Naylor. I mean, he's better than that. I mean, Naylor's he'd go away pretty quick if Addison showed up, and it's a good offense.
Josh Reynolds with an Achilles was limited on Wednesday for the Denver Broncos. He's kind of been.
He's not bad.
Relevant for them.
Yeah, he has. I mean, the offense showed a little bit of signs of life. I mean, they might be better. I mean, Nix is going to be better than he was against the Steelers or in round 1 or week 1.
Deebo Samuel, a non-participant on Wednesday. Doesn't look like he's going to play again this week.
Okay.
Trent Williams, with an illness, did not practice on Wednesday for the 49ers.
He has other stuff, too. He has conditioning stuff. He was injured in that game. Hasn't been great for the Niners.
No. Brock Purdy was back. He has a back issue. He was practiced in full on Wednesday for them.
They didn't say anything about Kittle, though, huh?
No, not yet. Not that Kittle was limited on Wednesday with the hamstring.
I'm just thinking about Juwan Jennings. Like, I'm probably not chasing that performance.
I wouldn't.
Yeah.
He's not. Well, he's certainly not going to put up that.
No, of course.
Kind of performance.
But I don't know that he's a starting receiver.
He may not have that many points as many points as he had in that game. He might not have the rest of the year.
Right. I think that's quite capable, and I have faith in Ayuk rebounding ball here too.
Jamar Chase has a shoulder injury. He was limited on Wednesday.
I didn't realize that. I think he finished the game.
Yeah. Keenan Allen with a heel injury was limited to practice on Wednesday. That's actually a step in the right direction for him. Good. He hasn't been out there yet.
No, and they threw the ball a ton, and it went to 3 guys. It went to Moore, it went to Kmet, and it went to Adunze.
Kmet was open anytime they wanted him.
Anytime they wanted him. Yeah, and they played the Colts, folks.
Chuba Hubbard was limited on Wednesday, but that was a rest situation for him.
Okay.
Andy Dalton also with the Panthers, has an ankle that cropped up, but he had a full practice on Wednesday as well.
Okay. I'm not saying run out and grab Dalton, but I'm comfortable now starting Deontay. If I have to, Chuba. I think those two now are useful.
Yeah, that Bengals secondary on Monday night did not impress me a whole lot.
Defense in general is pretty rough. That's
Taylor Britt.
His last name is Taylor Britt, hyphenated.
Yeah.
Right.
Can't think of his first name. But Cam Taylor Britt talked a lot last week.
That's what I heard.
And then got scorched multiple times in that game.
Yeah, not so great.
Not so great. Tank Dell has a wrist injury and rib injuries. He's considered day-to-day.
Really? Okay. I kind of felt like he's a buy low, too, because he's done very little. I think he's going to go past Diggs at some point. But those real little fellas, the Achans and Dells, the guys are unusually small. When I hear an injury like that, I worry more.
Yeah, and it's two things. It's not just one.
Yeah.
Austin Eckler with a concussion has been ruled out for Week 4. So Brian Robinson.
Oh, rev him up.
Rev him up big time. They're playing the Colts, too.
I mean, that offense is putting up a lot of points. They're moving the football a ton. Eckler, I think, looks good this year.
Yeah.
I think he just had a bad ankle last year.
Yeah. Tucker Kraft with a shoulder injury was limited on Wednesday for the Green Bay Packers.
Okay.
Jordan Love officially limited on Wednesday for the Packers.
And that's trending the right way, but I think this week has a chance.
Yeah, and you'd think, well, maybe because they've won the 2 games with Malik Willis at quarterback, maybe they rest Love another week, but they play the Vikings
This is a really important game.
Yeah.
And this is going to be one of the best games of the weekend.
Yeah, so we'll see if Love ramps it up here later in the week.
Not to mention, Love would deal with Flores a lot better than Willis would.
Alvin Kamara has hip and rib injuries. He was officially a non-participant on Wednesday.
Okay.
Speaking of teams, they play the Falcons.
Ooh, okay. That's another really
That's a
important
huge
game.
rivalry
Really
game.
is.
Yeah.
So, hot starts are great, but Kamara age running backs don't usually keep it up. If this is step one of, getting banged up, which they always do.
Especially for a guy like him who's never been a high volume guy.
No, right.
As a runner.
Right.
And now they're asking him to do those kind of things.
Doing everything.
Yeah.
Right. It's great. Just don't count on him being the most productive back in the league in Week 12.
Yeah. Dallas Goedert not seen practicing on Wednesday.
They're like out of receivers then.
No issue or no news on what that issue might be with him. Maybe he's got sore hands from catching all those passes.
Yeah. So they trade for Dotson. I think he has 1 catch this year.
Yeah.
And A.J. Brown's been out. Devontae Smith got hurt. Maybe he's just not good. I don't know, but it seems like you'd be using him after you gave a 3rd-round pick for him.
Justin Herbert, this according to Daniel Popper on Twitter, progressing and might practice on Wednesday. Of course, they're in San Diego or Los Angeles, so we won't get that news until later. But the idea that he might practice, I can't imagine it's a full participation.
I would think not. That seems like a pretty serious injury to me.
But same thing for them. They're playing the Chiefs this week.
Yeah.
You want him out there.
You don't just want to hand one over to the Chiefs, which basically would be how that works. But I don't know. I think you got to think big picture with him. He's played through a lot of injuries in his career.
Yeah. Jonathan Brooks with a knee is nearing a return for the Carolina Panthers. He's in the final stages of returning to play, according to head coach Dave Canales.
Wow. What list is he on? Did he start on IR? Or was he a pup?
I think he might have been a pup.
Because he didn't do anything in camp, obviously.
Yeah.
He hasn't done anything since they drafted him. I'm real intrigued with that. Their O-line's actually playing well. If you could trade for him now, I'd do it. I drafted him in actually both my leagues, mid-rounds, and then thought when the first 2 games of the season, I'm like, boy, that's a wasted pick. Come back to this mess. But now it's like, it's all right.
I just don't know for a running back coming back off of an ACL.
Yeah, as a new pro.
Yeah, I just don't know.
I would probably need it. If let's say he's active in Week 5, probably take me to Week 7 until I actually start him.
Yeah, I'd have to see it a couple weeks. And it's not like the other backs have been doing the job.
That's to say they're fine. They don't need him. Right. They're not winning the Super Bowl with or without him.
Damian Pierce with a hamstring, not seen practicing on Wednesday.
Sounds like Akers has a chance to go again as the one.
Yeah.
Didn't go great the first time around, but
Devontae Smith with a concussion, not spotted at practice on Wednesday for the Eagles.
Ooh, I mean the protocol's not kicking in then.
Yeah, that doesn't get him. A.J. Brown, not seen practicing on Wednesday with that hamstring.
He basically said it's going to be a couple weeks.
T.J. Hawkinson with a knee could return to practice next week.
Wow. Jump on him.
Yeah.
Jump on him. I mean, I bet there's leagues he didn't get drafted, and there's probably people that aren't paying attention enough. Tight ends are hard to find right now.
Here's the thing with him, though.
I probably need a week to see him live, too. But
coming back off of an injury like he had, I wonder if they slow play this a little bit because they get a 21-day window with him to have him start practicing.
Yeah, right.
And then they have to either activate him at the end of that 21 days or if he's not ready, he goes on season-ending IR.
Yeah.
So maybe this is
I know how that goes. Like, I remember when Rodgers did that last year. Like, he has no chance of coming back, but his window is officially open now.
Yeah.
I don't know. No one, over the summer, no one was talking about Hawkinson like he's going to miss the whole year. You know, like
right.
Many people thought he'd be around by Halloween or so. Maybe it's 2 weeks later.
That might still be the case. Yeah. I mean, we're getting almost to the end of September now.
My point was, though, I doubt that he's shut down for the season.
Yeah.
But it could be a while till he's useful for fantasy.
You mentioned Trey McBride. He remains in concussion protocol. Again, you're going to have to watch
a lot of concussions.
Have to watch the injury report on that one to figure out. He's going to have to clear concussion protocol, and that means
you're doing the steps.
A day of limited practice, maybe even a second day of limited practice, and then a full practice on Friday before he gets cleared. Mm-hmm. And even then, you're not guaranteed to be cleared.
No, right. So, of course, he's a West Coast practice guy, so we don't have much news on that yet.
Yeah.
But keep an eye on it. I mean, if you're a McBride owner, you're on the edge of your seat on that one.
Absolutely.
Because you're not going to find a suitable replacement.
Joe Mixon with that ankle injury remains week to week.
Okay. Again, that leans towards Akers.
Wyatt Teller with an MCL sprain was placed on IR for the Browns. We didn't talk about that one yesterday.
Yeah.
Their offensive line is a complete and utter mess.
It really is. I mean, because Wills came back, the left tackle, and was horrendous. They're okay at center. Guard's always been the strength of the team, but they're starting to get a little older, and now you lost one of the guys you could kind of count on. Right tackle's been a revolving door. They've had tackle injuries galore, and Watson's horrendous under pressure, and the running back doesn't make yardage like Chubb used to, you know? Other than that.
Saw a thing today, his last 300-yard game, Watson.
Oh, Watson.
Came in 2020 with the Houston Texans.
I 100%
And even at that, there are some comparisons that you could draw between him and Trevor Lawrence. How do I put this in a nice way?
No reason to be nice.
The year that Watson, quote-unquote, had his best season and led the NFL in passing yards,
they
were 4-12.
Oh, right.
There was a reason he led the league in passing yards because they had to throw all the time.
Exactly.
Same thing with Trevor Lawrence here. Mm-hmm. He's going to put up a bunch of yardage and stuff because they stink.
They're really bad. Unlike that version of Watson, though, Lawrence is part of the problem right now. You know, Watson was like the only bright spot on those Texans teams, and it was definitely was inflated. And he was a much better scrambler than he is now. Watson. Lawrence scares me. I mean, like, Lawrence is playing bad.
Bad.
I don't know if you saw it, but it's been going around Twitter a bunch, and a bunch of people sent it to me. If you look at Daniel Jones'
we talked about that yesterday.
They're like identical. And
people talk about Daniel Jones like he's the worst
lights.
quarterback in the league, and Trevor Lawrence isn't considered that, and maybe he should be.
I think there's going to be another coaching change there, too.
Yeah. Justin Jones out for the season. Underwent an MRI, which revealed a torn tricep.
Corner, right?
Yeah.
There's some Joneses I get confused at corner. The Patriots had like 6 of them.
This is the Arizona Jones.
Okay.
So, Jerome Ford for the Browns, speaking of them, missed practice on Wednesday. So did Pierre Strong with the hamstring.
So it hasn't been a good running game at all. And frankly, it's been one of the worst offenses in the league, no matter how you look at it. But it's even harder for fantasy because Foreman's in the mix, and he's probably looked the best of the group. I don't know if you can start anybody there.
Yeah. David Njoku also not practicing today. Myles Garrett has foot, Achilles, and thigh injuries.
That's it?
That's it. He did not practice today.
Doesn't sound great to start this week.
No.
Who they have? The Raiders, I think?
They're playing the Raiders in Las Vegas.
and it's like a pick'em game. And that's,
Yeah.
It should be.
Really? Yeah.
You're right. Vegas might be a better team.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know if they're playing Minshew or O'Connell or what they're
I
doing.
think he came out today and said that Minshew's a starter. So.
Okay. That's what I expected to happen, but it probably won't be long until there's changes.
Not if they have another game like that, and that's one thing that could happen against this Browns defense. But
It could.
even at that, like they got gifted a touchdown last week on the opening kickoff. I think the Giants fumbled the opening kickoff.
They did, right? And Cooper, like the next play was.
And the Browns still got smoked in that game.
They didn't do anything until the end.
Yeah.
I mean, there was like 50 minutes of play time that they were bad.
If you can't protect your quarterback,
Right.
you can't operate.
And he doesn't elevate anybody.
No.
And frankly, if they don't have Garrett, the defense becomes above average, maybe.
Maybe.
Yeah, but they're going to be on the field a lot, too.
Yeah.
I don't know what their time possession is, but it can't be good.
Because the defensive tackles aren't great.
No, right.
Like Garrett's a big part of their run defense, too. Even if he's not getting tackles and stuff, you do have to double him.
No, and all the attention he gets, right. It'd be an okay defense without them, but probably a droppable one in for fantasy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. That's going to do it for the Fantasy Football Focus. He is Matt Williamson. I am Dale Lolley. You're listening to The Drive here on the Steelers Audio Network. We'll be back with more right after this. Welcome back. I'm Dale Lolley. He is the Matt Williamson. And, Matt, I'm looking here at an article by Kevin Patra on NFL.com, and he breaks down 7 things, fact or fiction.
Okay.
One of these things is Steeler related.
Let's save that one for the last one.
Okay.
All right.
We can do that. His first one, Josh Allen is the best player in the NFL right now.
Fiction, but I think he's second, and I think he's running away with the MVP as we speak. He's been incredibly good.
He's been really good.
Accuracy's top of the league, spreading the ball around, not making the crazy errors. There'll be some of those coming, but
That to me is the big thing right now.
It's a big thing, yeah.
With Josh Allen is he's not making the big mistakes and he's spreading the ball around. He's not trying to force it to one guy.
I know, and they did too much of that. Well, not too much, but they did a lot of that with Diggs. It's a group effort now.
Going to be an interesting matchup this week between them and the Ravens in
Very
Baltimore.
Much so. Yeah, very much so. I'm not surprised that he's awesome. I'm a little surprised that their defense has been as good as it's been.
Yeah.
I mean, they had a lot of defections and injuries,
Number 2 on here, the Cincinnati Bengals are the most disappointing 0-3 team.
I guess there's a couple ways to look at that. The fact that they're 0-3 is more disappointing than any other team being 0-3.
Yeah.
But the way they got there hasn't been, boy, they're terrible. I mean, they're not doing well. They don't win any games.
2 of those losses,
Patriots
and Washington, those are not good losses. At home.
Patriots and Washington could both have a top 5 pick.
Right. So here you're 0-3 teams.
Yeah.
Cincinnati,
that's what I'm trying to think.
Jacksonville, Tennessee in the AFC.
Okay. Like, I guess my point is...
Actually, those are the only winless. There are only 3 winless teams right now.
Hold the league, yeah.
I didn't realize there were no winless teams right now in the NFC.
But I have way more hope for them than the Titans or Jags.
That makes them the most disappointing 0-3 team.
I guess. Jacksonville looks like they don't even care.
Look.
You know what I mean?
When we were picking who was going to win the AFC North this year,
we both took the Bengals.
We both took the Bengals.
Yeah.
I don't think that's the case now.
Oh, no.
I don't think they can win the division.
No. I think that's
probably... They're going to struggle now to get to a playoff spot at 0-3.
Yeah, they get to win 10 more games.
Because they've missed 2 layups at home.
Yeah. So I guess they're the most disappointing. There's only 3 to pick from.
Yeah.
I mean,
I didn't realize there were only 3.
The Jags are really disappointing.
Jags are disappointing,
watch,
but I'm not surprised.
No. And the Titans don't surprise me at all.
No.
Right. Okay. Yeah, that's fine.
He says that statement is fiction. I don't know about that. He says the Jaguars are off to a more discouraging start. I'm like, really?
Their film's worse.
Yeah.
But expectations were higher.
I didn't think the Jaguars were a playoff team this year, whereas I thought the Bengals were a division winner.
AFC, yeah, right.
People were talking 2 weeks ago after they played the Chiefs about how they were the team that could beat the Chiefs in the playoffs.
Right.
Now they're going to struggle just to get to the playoffs.
Arrowhead Stadium.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
How'd that work out?
He might need a new hairdo for luck.
He might.
Yeah.
Jaden Daniels is the 2024 version of C.J. Stroud.
I'm not quite there yet. I'm impressed. I think he is poised. He's played a lot of football before he got here, and that's showing up. And they're coaching him pretty well. Like his accuracy percentage is through the roof. And I think he had like 90% this past week.
Yeah, he was like 21 of 23 or something like that.
They're one of the best offenses in the league thus far. Not quite there yet.
He's tough to play against, though.
He absolutely is. He's very, very impressive.
He's probably tougher to play against than C.J. Stroud. Stroud doesn't run like he does.
C.J. Stroud's a master in the pocket.
I get it.
Yeah,
I get it. But I'm just saying, in terms of designing a game plan against, like, you have to be cognizant of Jaden Daniels getting out on the edge.
I mean, when he compares him to C.J. Stroud's rookie year, though, I mean, that's one of the best rookie years a quarterback's had in 20 years.
No doubt.
Maybe number one.
No doubt.
Like, I don't think Daniels will be there when it's all said and done.
Yeah.
I think it'll be a success.
The one thing I will say about Daniels, Matt, and this is one of the knocks you had against him, you saw if he runs like he did in college, he's going to get broken in half.
Yeah.
Well, you saw him slide and things of that nature.
Yeah, he's doing better.
He's gotten much better with that. He's very aware of those kind of things.
I'm sure that's been stressed to him.
Yeah.
Good. Because, I mean, he has some of that Lamar stop-start, hard-to-hit stuff for sure. Lamar doesn't take many big hits.
Yeah.
But Daniels took a lot of big hits at LSU.
Yeah. The NFC North is the NFL's best division. It has been thus far.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Certainly, you can't say it's the AFC North this year right now.
Would you take the Bears over the Browns as the bottom feeders in the divisions? Neither one's very exciting, but I probably would take the Bears over the Browns.
The problem is for the AFC North right now is that the Bengals are below the Browns.
Oh, yeah. The Bengals are – I mean, if we're ranking those – if we power rank those 8 teams, I think I'd have Cincy 6. Browns and Bears would still be my last
Browns
two.
and Bears are the last two, yeah.
Right.
But right now –
I wouldn't have the Steelers 1
Detroit's
or the Ravens 1.
Detroit's number 1.
Green Bay would be 2 for me. I think I have the Steelers ahead of Minnesota. And I think we had the 3 of them when we talked power ranks yesterday.
Yeah.
I said something along the lines of if the Vikings, Steelers, Ravens, just put them in a bag and shook them up, whatever order they came out, I'd been fine with.
Yeah.
So if they're all the same,
and your
the
top
two are
your
there.
top 2 are there, yeah.
And I think the Browns are the worst.
I think they are too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's sad.
Something is amiss with Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs' offense.
Nah. Fiction.
Well, I think what's amiss with it right now is they don't have Pacheco.
I don't think Kelsey's the same.
And Kelsey's not. Kelsey turns 36 next week.
I can't stress this enough. I don't think spending the offseason on Taylor Swift's Era Tour is good for being a good tight end. I mean, he has a crazy life.
Might
He's
not
on
be
every
good for
commercial.
if Mahomes had done the same thing. It wouldn't be good for a quarterback
It wouldn't
either.
be good for anybody. I mean, it's a once-in-a-lifetime thing. Go do it. Go have wonderful children together. I don't care one bit. But in his world, is training and working out as big a deal as it used to be? He's on every commercial.
Yeah.
I don't know. And at his age, and I'm sure they're saving him to some degree. And Rashee Rice is the one running the Kelsey routes.
Yeah.
They'll be fine. Did he call that fiction?
He called that fiction, yeah.
Yeah.
The Vikings are the best team in the NFC. That's fiction. No, that's not even close to being the case.
No. I think the Niners are probably better.
Well, they got
We were
smoked
talking
up there
about
a
the
couple
division.
weeks ago.
I know.
But I think the Vikings lose this week to the Packers.
I do too. If Love goes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do too.
Is that it for those? Okay, that brings us to the last one, which involves the Steelers. The Steelers are the most dangerous team in the NFL.
Please explain. What's he have to say about that? Does he have a write-up on all these?
Yeah. He said the Steelers' defense is a terror.
Yes.
T.J. Watt and company have lived in the backfield, discombobulating offenses. Pittsburgh has allowed just 26 points through 3 games, the fewest in the NFL in 2024, and the fewest for a Steelers squad since 2007. They've gobbled up quarterbacks to the front four that brings waves of pressure without extra bodies. The Steelers' 41.3% pressure rate with a 4-man rush is second in the NFL per next-gen stats, behind only Houston's 41.9%. The ability to generate pressure with 4 provides a major boost to the defensive backfield.
Huge.
Yeah. which still has some major questions. Well, I don't know that it has. Where are the major questions in his Steelers backfield that people are talking about?
Yeah, I don't either. I think people are giving Elliott and
Dante
Jackson not enough credit. I mean, I can't verify this, but I retweeted it a little bit ago that quarterbacks have a 35.8 passer rating whenever they're targeting Dante Jackson. That's like throwing it in the dirt every play. I mean, that's what they compare it to.
He's been really good.
He's been really good.
And I know that, people were saying, well, when they got him, well, the Carolina Panthers were going to cut him.
Well, then they're dumb.
It's the Carolina Panthers we're talking about. We're not talking about the Baltimore Ravens cutting him. We're not talking about the Steelers cutting him. We're not talking about the 49ers cutting him. Right. We're talking about a dumb franchise that 2 years ago decided to trade away the first overall pick so they could go get a quarterback they just benched.
Right. And if they would have cut him, a bunch of teams would have called him and tried to get him.
Absolutely.
I mean, there's no doubt about it. And all that aside, he's been good.
Yeah.
He's been real good. When they say dangerous, though, that's why I was wanted to hear some of the write-up. I believe...
Well, he says he believes it's fiction because the Steelers are not the most dangerous team in the NFL. Can the most dangerous team be one that averages 17 points a game? No, and I agree with that.
Right.
That assumes, however, that the Steelers are going to continue to average 17 points a game all season long, which I believe is a false statement.
And it would be a little higher if Najee takes that in the end zone.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's 7 more points.
Yeah. But 7 more points in 3 games. Now they're averaging about 20 points a game, and are people talking about that the same way?
I would have written it different and made it a fact if it was something along the lines of the Steelers are the team you feel in your bones the next day more than any other.
You don't want to play them.
Right. It's kind of like, remember the Niners last year or whatever? Everybody the week after the Niners lost, and they beat up their bodies. I think that's the Steelers now. I mean, and we don't talk about this enough, and it's maybe a much bigger conversation. But so many defensive coordinators now are spending so much time, what do we do with the Shanahan offense? Oh, we got to figure out a zig for the zag for what Shanahan and McVay do and all their disciples that are calling plays all across the league. Nobody calls plays or designs offense like the Steelers do with Arthur Smith. It's very unique. You don't get 14 personnel. You know what I mean?
I mean, honestly, how much
start
team do you get?
Right, exactly. Very little. Right.
Half the teams in the league don't even have 3 tight ends on their roster. The Steelers have 5.
Right. It was kind of like when Lamar took over for Baltimore. It's like, I don't know how to deal with this offense. It's a lot different than what we see week to week. And the Steelers have some of that.
And
it's very physical.
A 240-pound running back, a 230-pound specialist, whatever you want to call
Patterson.
And then another 220-pound running back. There's no little dudes.
No. So I know Warren got injured, but this is in the stat pack. Patterson played 16 plays on Sunday with either Harris or Warren on the field with him. And I know he's part receiver. They averaged 8 yards a play in those games.
Yeah, I asked Mike Tomlin about that at his press conference. I said, hey, how unique is it? He always talks about positionless football.
Yeah.
But typically when you're talking about guys having positionless football abilities, you're talking about defensive guys.
Oh, right.
A linebacker that moves like a safety or a safety that can come down and play linebacker, things of that nature. You're not typically talking about a running back who's a wide receiver who can – they're bringing him in to block guys on running plays and stuff like he's a tight end. He's cracking down. He's a big dude.
When you see him in person, he's bigger than I thought.
Yeah.
He's not a wiry track athlete looking guy. He is a big physical dude.
He looks like a tight end.
And frankly, he's proven his career. I don't want to line him up as an X receiver and run 60 routes with him. He's not good enough at that. But he can run a full route tree, and he has. He has experience.
He's done it his entire career.
Right.
He's lined up in the backfield in his career. He's done all these things that they're going to ask him to do more of. And that's what Tomlin told me. He says, look, because I mentioned, he played wide receiver. He had 8 snaps out wide, 5 snaps in the slot, 6 snaps in the backfield in the last game. Who does that?
Who does that? People are like, well, that's kind of like Debo. You're not going to give Debo 20 carries in any game ever.
No.
You know what I mean? And
but
he's
Patterson
a better wide receiver than Patterson.
Yeah.
And Debo can get carries, but you're not going to. He was not the feature back for a season,
right?
You know what I mean? That's not how he's built. Right?
But Tomlin said, "Hey, we were planning on starting to incorporate him into that stuff. Anyways, it wasn't just because of the injury stuff that they had last week, which is kind of what I thought it might be."
Mm-hmm. It's almost like the 6th lineman thing. Okay, we got another trick up our sleeve.
We got this guy. We're going to put him out here. Now, what do you got?
Mm-hmm. Like, probably myself included, but in the timing of it being a minute after the rule got passed about the kickoff, it's like, well, they're ahead of the game. They got the best kickoff returner. Well, Smith also uses him on offense a lot.
And nobody's kicking the ball to him.
And nobody saved the ball to him.
Now, that might change.
One return all year.
That might change in November.
It might, right.
In fact, I would almost bet that it does.
Mm-hmm.
But I talked to Danny Smith about that, and he said, look, have there been balls that he probably Cordell Patterson 5 years ago, you kick a ball midway into the end zone, there's a good chance he was bringing that out.
Yeah.
And he's just letting it bounce because Danny said, look, we're picking our spots with this. He wants to return the ball, and I want to see him return the ball. But, tell me what's the game situation? What's the what's the score? Where are we at? How's their coverage? What's our blocking look like?
Mm-hmm.
Are we looking for a spark? That kind of stuff. And he said, right now we haven't needed to do it. He said, I want to see him do it.
Yeah.
And I know he's great at it, but
you start at 30 now, which isn't so bad either.
Right.
That's different than the old touchback
you want to kick
rules,
it
right?
and give it to 30, fine.
Yeah.
I'm
glad you mentioned the blocking because they'll put him in motion going forward and crack down on DN, like a Hines Ward type thing.
Yeah.
I think you'll see some of that.
Yeah, he's a big dude.
He's a big, strong guy. Yeah.
So I think the offense is only going to get better. Is kind
I
of
agree.
where I was going with this. They're not going to average 17 points a game all season.
I will take the over on that 100%. And I also think the O-line will start gelling more.
Yeah. So in that regard, I think they will be a quote-unquote dangerous team. The league's most dangerous team, that will be played out over the course of the season. But if this team gets to the point where it's averaging 22, 23, 24 points per game, with this defense continuing to play the way it has, yes, they're a very dangerous team.
Absolutely. And I would put something along the lines of, like Dallas is the upcoming opponent. They're not thrilled about that. Like the other teams aren't thrilled to see the Steelers on their schedule.
They just watched the Ravens run the ball 40 times against them for 200 yards. Do you think the Cowboys want to come? Oh, boy, now we get to go play the Steelers. What do you think they're going to do?
Exactly.
And they don't have the personnel to match up against it.
No, they don't. It's not going to get much better for Dallas.
No, it really isn't. But that was the Kevin Patra article on NFL.com.
Yeah, I see where he's coming from.
Absolutely. But, Matt, we got to get to a break.
Okie doke.
So he is Matt Williamson. I am Dale Lolley. You're listening to The Drive here on the Steelers Audio Network. Matt and I will be back with more right after this. And welcome back. I'm Dale Lolley. He is the Matt Williamson. And, Matt, just a couple of weeks ago, the Steelers were able to bring back Terrell Edmunds to this team and re-sign him to the roster. And didn't get a hat last week against the Chargers, but I think we'll see what happens with the injury to Deshaun Elliott. Minkah Fitzpatrick might want him in helmet because
I know where you're going with this, which is interesting.
Minkah Fitzpatrick has not had an interception or a forced turnover in a Steelers uniform in a game in which Terrell Edmunds was not wearing a helmet.
How about that?
So maybe Terrell Edmunds is a Minkah Fitzpatrick elevator.
But, they did have a good thing going together.
Yeah,
and there's no question. And I think him and Elliott will. And kind of like Pierre, pretty fortunate he was out there.
Yeah, a guy that knows the system, can play. So
at some point, they're going to need him this year. They would have killed for him last year at the end of the season.
Oh, no doubt about it. In fact, there were people talking about why don't they trade for getting Terrell Edmunds back. So I had an opportunity to sit down and talk with Terrell earlier today. Good guy. Let's hear what he had to say. You've had a little bit of time now to settle back in here. How does it feel to kind of be back home?
Man, it feels good, just coming back and getting back acclimated to the team, the city, the environment, the playbook, and now just getting back comfortable at doing what you used to do. So I definitely feel like I feel good now, ready to go out there and play whenever that time comes, and just go out there and help the team.
How interesting was it last year? You bounced into a couple of different teams. You get traded. It doesn't happen all that often. You don't see too many player trades in the NFL.
Yeah, I think that was probably the craziest part of it, just because, we was playing, we were winning in Philly. We were 7-1, and then
it went down in tubes after they got rid of you.
I know, it went crazy. 7-1, and then I got traded to Tennessee, and that was I've never been traded. I never had to experience two teams in 1 year. That was probably the craziest thing, but it's just a learning experience, it's a building block. it's something that helps mold your story because, it's just another piece of the puzzle. Everything's a part of the puzzle. Everything's trying to make a perfect picture. And you constantly just got to keep on putting puzzle pieces together to make it all make sense.
How cool is it to be able to come back here?
Man, it feels good. We always joked about it. Even when I played these guys last year when I was with Tennessee, everybody was telling me come back. Everybody was talking about Thanksgiving because Thanksgiving was coming up, talking about inviting me to dinner, just come back to Pitt. And, it was a good time. It felt good last year coming to see everyone, and now just being a part of the team. It feels even just like old times.
Was it like riding a bike to get back onto this, or was there some new nuances and things like that?
I really wouldn't say a bike. I think I'd say a motorcycle because it's already a moving train. And, not saying that a motorcycle is more difficult. It's just more so like, man, we're a little bit more, we're on point right now. We're 3-0, not focusing on that, but more so the next game and constantly just building as a team and figuring out how I can help the team out.
You've had a chance to be elsewhere and then come back. Did you get to see any differences between? You in 1 year you went to 2 different places. Was it that much different than here? In terms of?
Everywhere is different. Scheme-wise, how they run the team and everything, and each team is different. Some teams were older. When I was in Philly, they were older than Tennessee, but at the same time, it was just getting a hold of the playbook and learning the playbook because each team have a way that they do the calls, have some new language, have the way that they play a coverage, and that's the biggest thing that you have to learn, how to play the coverage that they want you to play and forget the last one that you were with, and I think that's the biggest test going from team to team.
How much or how different is this defense in terms of they've added a bunch of different players since you were here? You bring in a Patrick Queen, you bring in some of the other guys that they brought in. Mm-hmm. Does this look like the best version of the Steelers defense since you've been around this team?
Oh, man, I don't know. We got to just see how the picture folds out. We had some good teams. It's hard. We had that team with, not trying to compare the temes, but we had the team with Bud, TJ, Tuitt, Cam, Alex, Joe Hayden, Steve Nelson, Mike Hilton, me, Minka still. So we had some good teams. This team is just as good as you say, so we're just going to see how it all plays out, and hopefully, right now everything's looking great. We just got to keep on building, keep all the noise behind us, not even worried about or let it get our head big, and just go out there and play our game each and every week because every game is a new test.
Tell Minka he hasn't had a pick since you've been around?
Man, I ain't going to talk no junk to him.
That's true, though, isn't it?
Man, it's rare. I'm going to say it's rare. He's a great player, but, teams avoid him. So I guess that's the biggest thing you got to do, just figure out exactly, put himself in that position. I know he works hard, he studies hard, so, man, it would be crazy. The first time I put on my helmet again, he go out there, catch 1 or 2 picks. I'm going to be so happy. I hope he do because he's going to hype him up, and I'm ready to see it.
Could be this week, maybe.
I know. That's the plan. I hope so.
And that was Steelers safety Terrell Edmunds earlier today, as mentioned. He said after we got done, he says, "Hey, if that happens, if I get a helmet this week and he gets an interception, you got to write that." I'm like, I might write it before that. That might be part of 5 for Friday this week. So we'll see.
Or if Edmunds becomes a starter and all of a sudden Minka's lighting it up and back to the Pro Bowl and All-Pro, it's all Edmunds.
Yeah, that's what it is. But as he said, look, teams shy. They don't throw near that guy. But I think
people don't think about that.
This team this week, this opponent this week, could be one that just.
I think they're going to chuck it deep.
Anthony Richardson is going to take some shots.
Yeah, especially because they're not going to see a lot of too high. They're going to see single high. So check to the bomb. Be careful with that.
Yeah,
and so we'll see. I think Minka's a key guy this week.
I do too. But, Matt, that's going to do it for the show today.
Good stuff.
Absolutely. For my partner, Matt Williamson, for Justin Miller here on site, keeping us on the air, for Tyler Vittmeyer, keeping us looking pretty on the video here, I'm Dale Lolley. We appreciate you listening to this edition of The Drive on the Steelers Audio Network.
Steelers football happens here. The Pittsburgh Steelers Audio Network.